NFL's moving to 17 regular season games this season, but how will the players be paid? Under the old collective bargaining agreement, players were paid in 17 weekly installments during the regular season. Now, under the new CBA, players push for a 36-week pay schedule, which would allow them to get paid for a bigger part of the year than just in season. So, Acho, is it smart for players to push for a 36-week pay schedule?
It's not, Sel, and it's not for individual players because you're doing a disservice to the financially literate players by extending the pay schedule from 17 weeks to 36 weeks. Let's talk. I love talking to you, Marcellus, because you're brilliant. I'm going to assume y'all's brilliance at home.
All right.
See, there's something called the time value of money. $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow because of inflation. Things get more expensive over time, therefore the value of your dollar is worth less over time because things get more expensive. So if I was going to be paid $1 million, I would rather be paid that $1 million in 17 weeks as opposed to 36 weeks because there are 19 more weeks that I could use that $1 million to make more money. Roughly 5 months, I could use my $1 million to make me more money. And the players, the financially literate players, are now being robbed of that ability. So I don't love the NFL expanding the payday for that reason. There's so many layers to this conversation, so many places to go in this conversation. And the last thing I will say is this, though, on my first lap. I understand why you have to do it.
Okay.
You're trying to protect the players from themselves.
Yes.
You have independent neurologists on the sidelines now because you're trying to protect players who get concussed from going back in a game. You're trying to protect the players physically from themselves. In the same breath, the NFL is currently trying to protect the players financially from themselves. The problem is, in trying to protect the totality of all players, you were hurting the financially educated, financially literate, financially wise, financially whatever you want to call it that has a propensity to greatness. You were affecting those players. And for that reason, big dog, I'm not a fan.
How many of those players, give me a percentage you would say that are financially literate before I get into my take?
30%.
30%? Boy, stop.
You want lesser?
Yeah, take a digit off. Probably the 3. Take the 3 off. 0.
So
look, what you were saying idealistically, fundamentally was correct. But literally, it was incorrect in terms of the literal translation to reality. Like, we lived through it. So I can come up here and give you podium talk and tell you, you know what? Protect those 30% to me, pretty much single-digit number of players that actually know what to do with their money. But then in reality, living through it, I have to talk to the people from that place, from that vantage point, which is you have to do something to make these players more financially literate. Now, schools don't tell you how to be financially literate for the average American. Let's talk now about multi-million-dollar corporations, which are called athletes. You're in your 20s. You have not even learned how to make proper decisions. Your frontal cortex is not fully developed. Like, we're immature just by age. And certainly when you talk about the dynamic of giving a 21, 22-year-old millions of dollars, he's also inexperienced with that inordinate amount of money. He went from 0 to 100 real quick. And all of a sudden, what flips is the family dynamic. So now you're the richest, and people assume the smartest, but you're the least experienced. I don't give a damn if mama and daddy was broke. The fact that they have lived longer and have a greater perspective and value of money, whether they have it or not, is what players lack, value of money. I give you this example before we pass the baton. I had 2 best friends graduating from college, myself and 2 guys who went to Wall Street.
Yes, sir.
I go to the NFL and I'm making my $1 million in my contract. They're making tens of thousands, lower hundreds of thousands. Great by American standards. Not great keeping up with the Joneses in the NFL locker room. But what happened was they started to learn a lifestyle based on value of how to live off an $80,000 a year salary.
Sir.
Their fish tank was this big. My fish tank was millions of dollars of big and gallons of water, which all of a sudden this fish got as big as this tank and started to realize I'm as big as all of this water. But what happens in real life is you don't need to live that way, protecting yourself from yourself. While we are starting to big and get to a point where we are living bigger, greater than our means, most people are learning that value conversation and climbing up. We need to do something, annuity principles, that allows the players to mature and to learn the proper value of money while still protecting them as they go through that process.
But the problem, Sel, is I just wonder how long can you spoon feed athletes? Athletes are also adults, and they are also grown individuals, grown men, grown women. We're talking about the National Football League. So right now, we're talking about grown men as NFL players. How long you want to spoon feed them, Sel? I'll put it to you like this. If I am trying to educate someone on a proper diet, am I better off saying, okay, look, make sure you get your carbs, get your vegetables, get your proteins, get your healthy fats, etc. Or you know what? Here, I'll just make your meal every day because I don't trust you to know how to eat properly. That's what the NFL is doing. Hey, you know what, athletes? I don't think y'all know how to take care of your money properly. So rather than educating you on how to take care of it properly, I'm just going to say, nope. Nope, I'm not giving it to you all at one time. I'm going to treat you like a child. You know how you got to treat children, because if you give them all the dessert, Easter was this past weekend. I saw some videos, my nephews and nieces, oh, wait, we want all the candy, we want all the candy. But my siblings withheld the candy from them, because if you give them all the candy at once, they'll eat it all, because they are children. And children don't necessarily know how to discern, how to properly ration. 21 to 44-year-old men should know how to properly discern and how to properly ration. Let's bring in one of those former or current, depending on how you look at it, NFL athletes. My brother, a player rep on the executive committee for the National Football League. Sam, big bro, Sam Macho, you were actually in these with the other player reps. You were there. Was it smart for you and the rest of the players to push for a 36-week pay schedule, and why?
Well, quick point, E, you're talking about nieces and nephews. Those are my kids you're talking about. We have to withhold the desserts from them, because when you see this copious spread of food, you just want to get after it. And similarly with the NFL players, 21 and 22, sometimes even 20-year-old kids, you have all this money. I love your example of the diet plan, the meal plan. You have all this money in front of you, and I understand the time value of money. It's important. But also what I've understood is that the more you can actually help people get ready for the real world, because in the real world, you're not paid over 17 weeks. You're paid every single week or every other week, right? First of the month or every 2 weeks. The more you're ready for the real world, the better you'll be at transitioning out of football. Quick example. I remember my rookie year, right? I'm financially literate. I felt like I was financially savvy as well. My rookie year, I saw these huge checks, big checks, right? A lot of zeros on my checks. And I felt really great about my life until the season ended. Season ends in December, January, no checks. February, March, April, May, June, July. By August, I'm like, man, get me back on this roster so I can see those big checks. And what I've seen is that the teams that actually experienced a longer pay period, like the Tennessee Titans, actually did better when they were done playing, even than when they were playing.
Interesting right there. Like, I know y'all brothers, but I didn't like the food example. I tell you why, because the resource of food is not the equivalent of the resource of money. In terms of, one, it's a finite amount of time to make all those zeros when you're playing in the NFL versus you can always go back to the fridge. I don't know if anything's going to be in there, but at least you can go back to the fridge after you're 44 years old and still get something to eat and get full off of it. That's not the same with the NFL lifespan. Let's just be real about it. And I'm glad you brought up how it looks different in season in terms of your living expenses and your comfort level versus off season. I tell you this in story form. My first year as a rookie, because I was a second rounder, most of the other players on the team were thinking, you big money. First rounders, certainly big money, but even second rounders, oh, you got that, Wiley, especially the other rookies. So keeping up with the Joneses, this is what happened my rookie year. You finish up the season, January, you know us. We ain't winning no Super Bowl. So we're done early January, off-season hits. Then it's around April, May, Memorial Day, all of a sudden you get that phone call from your homeboy. Hey, man, what you doing? What do you mean what I'm doing? Doing what I'm doing. I'm doing me. What you up to? Oh, no, I just wanted to talk to you. I was like, we talking right now. You already know. It's the Baller Bridge loan. Here we go. That conversation. You can hear the violins. Hey, man, I mean, I know you got it, Wiley, so I just wanted to see if you... Let me hold something till we get to the game checks. And I'm not lying. I'm not even exaggerating to any degree. It felt like every year, about 5 guys I would have to